Hello and welcome to Break Check. This is the final episode of the season as we just covered our final event for the Rocket League 21-22 season. It's kind of crazy. It's wild that the season is over. It feels like it just started yesterday, but with action seriously every weekend, I guess I'm not too surprised that the season does seem to fly by. And so regionals are over, but it's not done just yet. We have the Spring Major in London, and then obviously we have the World Championship in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So plenty to look forward to. We're not completely done with RLCS just yet, but we are going to cover this last European regional, talk about it for just a moment. So the first thing we're going to look at is closed qualifiers. And as always, we know that EU is incredibly deep as a region with talent and incredibly competitive, even in these closed qualifiers. So it was quite the challenge for some of these squads that have, essentially become, main event regulars. I think the teams like Luminosity and Misfits, people expect them to be in these main events, but it's not always an easy path. So we'll take a look at this real quick before we jump into the main event results. We got Guild going 3-0, taking down Mads. I don't know how to say the rest of it. Luminosity and Misfits. Let's see who's on Mads. So that's Roniki, Mads, and Violent Panda. So all three good wins there. I'm not too surprised by that. Guild is a high-quality team, in my opinion. I think they're still pretty underrated. And I'm going to say this. I'll make a quick prediction. I think Guild is probably going to make a little bit of a change in this offseason. And I think if they can hold on to CRR and they can bring in maybe another super highly mechanical player, another talented player that complements CRR well, alongside Dorito potentially, I think Guild, I think they could be a top 6 team. Guild is a scary roster. We got Solary as well. Again, not too surprised here. Solary has shown that they have what it takes to be main event regulars and competitive in those main events as well. They had a really solid first showing, or first regional showing in the spring split. They take down We Try, We Win, Chicos Grandes, and Navi. And that is Chicos Grandes is a team with Billy, Dying, and Tecos. I think Tecos is kind of an upcoming player. We'll probably see more of him next season. And then We Try, We Win is Yukio, Rai, and Nowasaki. And all of these players, actually, I'm not sure if Nowasaki has made a main event yet, but Yukio obviously has, and Rai has as well with Cookster's Minions in the past. So three solid wins, taking out Navi as well. Solary, 3 solid wins. Juicers, a good run as well. They start off taking down Liquid. That's a big win right there. They lose to Navi. They take down Chicos Grandes, and then they take down Aogiri as well. So solid performance there from Juicers. We got Team Liquid bouncing back after that first loss, going 3-0, 3-1, 3-0. Some quality wins there for them as well. And then Grow Noobs, who lose to Luminosity in round 1. Can't fault them for that. And then they go to Game 5 with Mads, Game 5 with We Try, We Win, and Game 5 with Misfits, but clutch it up there in Game 5. So good for Grow Noobs. If we are not sure who that is, I'll go ahead and hover over that squad for just a moment. There it is. Gek, Yukis, and Whiskey Drink. And Yukis, I know for sure, I recognize this name, has definitely had some success in the past. And the other two I'm not as familiar with, but obviously a good performance there from those guys. And then we come to this round 5, the final qualification match here. We got Misfits, Aogiri, who also made regional number 2, and then Luminosity Gaming. And like I said, LG and Misfits, I think those are 2 teams that people expect in these main events. If they were to miss out, I definitely think that would be a surprise. But it's, unfortunately, at least for Misfits, I'm not as sure about Luminosity. Round 5 in the closed qualifier, it's not too uncommon. I think that happens, honestly, far too frequently with this Misfits squad. But nonetheless, they clutch it up. They do what they need to do and make it into the main event. And I've said this many times in the past, but that is kind of the mark of a successful team, is even when things go wrong, even when things are, not as, they're not going as well as they should, and you're not playing as well as you can, you still got to get those wins, and Misfits do what they need to do and qualify into the main event. So good for them, and that's going to be our top 8, which make it into the event. Well, that means we have We Try, We Win, We Try, Win, Navi, Chicos Grandes, 0-0 Nation, who's kind of had a fall off here towards the end of the season, Williams Resolve, who's also had a fall off, but that is due to some roster issues. I don't know how to say this, Fufax, I don't know, Mads, and then all falling out of closed qualifier here at the end. And I will say this, at the end of the season here in Europe, we've definitely seen some rosters kind of fall apart, and some teams just kind of threw 3 players together and tried for this final regional. So I'm not too surprised to see some of those teams fall out, especially, like I said, after they have kind of fallen apart. But nonetheless, that is the teams that qualified. So let's go ahead and jump right into the main event. We've got the first things that I want to mention is obviously Dignitas. They had some pretty poor performances in Regional 1 and 2, and essentially they needed to win this event if they wanted a chance at making the major. And obviously they were not able to do that, but they did bounce back and they had a top 6 finish. So good for Dig, right? They had a much stronger regional here in regional number 2. Or excuse me, 3 to close the spring split. So that was good to see. Glad to see them bounce back and shake off some of those poor results from earlier on. And we have Carmi Corp kind of doing the opposite, where Carmi Corp has been really impressive throughout the first 2 regionals. And they definitely were not bad in this regional, but they weren't as good as they have been. And so we saw a little bit of a misstep there, a little bit of a stumble or a hiccup or whatever you would like to call it. But definitely not as strong of a performance from K Corp, falling to EG in lower round 3. And we know that they have potential to be a good team, but they have not been performing well. So this is definitely an unexpected loss from K Corp in this third regional. In this spring split, because K Corp has looked a lot stronger than EG in this third and final split. So K Corp a bit weak. Dig, unfortunately, missing out on the spring major. And so we've got, something really unique here, where we return to London, which is where season 5 World Championship went down, which featured the, super famous match of NRG Dig, and we see neither NRG or Dignitas making this main event, making this major in London. So, just kind of a goofy little storyline or a funny thing, and it's just, I think it's indicative of this just new wave of talent. The game has grown so much in the past 2 to 3 years, and it's expanded as well. There's so many new players, and there's new organizations and new teams and players that are becoming eligible by turning 15. So it's just the evolution of the esport, and it's fun to see. It's fun to watch, even if some of these teams that have, this rich history, this rich background and legacy in the esport are unfortunately missing out on some of these high-profile events like the London Major. The next thing I want to talk about is Team Liquid and Endpoint. Both teams looking strong in this final event, and we do have a little bit of a different history between those two rolling through this spring split. We've got Liquid, who came on to this spring split with 2 brand new, eligibility-wise, brand new players. Obviously, Oski and Eto, I learned how to say that yesterday, have been high-level players for quite some time, but they were underage. They were still 14. They couldn't compete in RLCS officially. So now they are eligible. They are playing alongside a Chronic, who's also fairly young. I think he's 15, 16 years old as well. He does have a little bit of experience towards the end of RLCSX, playing professionally. But Liquid, this is really kind of their first go-round with this new roster. My goodness, they came out the gate swinging. They've had really good performances in Regional 1, 2, and now in Regional 3 as well. And so great stuff for Liquid. They've earned themselves a spot at the major, and they look really good even here at the conclusion of the spring split. Endpoint did not have such a consistent spring split. They definitely turned up as the split unfolded. And I think that, that's, if you're going to have some missteps, you want to do it early on. It's not too surprising either, because obviously they lost Seiko, who went to BDS, and they picked up Archie. So there's a little bit of kind of a buffer period of where they have to figure out how to play with one another, the team chemistry on and off the field. But it looks like they are figuring those things out, and they, Endpoint, something that they've always been really good at is the mentality side of things, not getting flustered or frustrated, not getting, tilted and tossing series by, conceding a couple of goals here and there, or conceding an unfortunate game or something like that. They don't let these outside, external, unforeseen circumstances impact them in game. And we're seeing that here with Endpoint making some nice comebacks against teams, even if they're not able to completely complete the reverse sweep. So like Team BDS, they fall down, they take game 1, but then they lose 3 straight, but they're able to bounce back after this timeout. We know Endpoint does a great job with their timeouts as well. And they actually were able to take down BDS in the upper finals. So Endpoint, again, turning up when it matters here towards the end of this spring. And hopefully for them, going to turn that momentum into a good performance at the spring major in London. So as I said, Liquid, Endpoint, both looking good here towards the final third of the RLCS 21-22 season. We get the Moist W. Moist finally dethrones BDS. BDS take not only their first L, they also take a second L since picking up Seiko. Once they grab Seiko from the winter to the spring, there's a trade window, and they pick up Seiko. They hadn't dropped a series, all right? They hadn't dropped a series. They had one clean sweep straight through both Regional 1 and Regional 2, and now they finally fall in the in the upper bracket. They fall to the lower bracket. Endpoint end up taking them out. But as soon as they get down here, they just get right back to business. They 4-0 Team they 4-1 Dignitas, they 4-0 Team Liquid, and then they 4-3 Team BDS, they 4-3 Endpoint, and get that revenge. But then they run into Moist. And Moist, I think they were, they were a little bit tested by Liquid, a little bit tested by Endpoint. And by the time they got to the finals, I think they really had figured out how they wanted to play, how they wanted to execute things. They probably had a lot of confidence moving into that because they knew that BDS would obviously have to beat them 2 times. So Moist taking that dub. It's the first W under the Moist banner. So that's exciting. I still have not had a chance to go back and catch the Moist Critical Watch Party VOD. I am definitely going to do that. They are extremely hype. If you have not watched them, their watch parties, you should definitely go do so. It's a lot of fun. They're very, very, very heavily invested in the success of their Moist Esports Rocket League team. And we all know that Moist is a treat to watch. So those watch parties are full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and it's just a lot of content, a lot of entertainment. So Moist finally hand BDS their first regional loss since picking up Seiko. But BDS still looks strong, and they take second in that third and final event. And with that, we are going to see our 5 teams, European teams, that are going to be representing the European region at the major. We got Team BDS. We've got Team Moist. Team Liquid. We got Carmine Corp. First major attendance. Same for Liquid, obviously. This is really Liquid's first real go at a split. And then Endpoint's grabbing that 5th seed. So with that being said, I think Endpoint sent a very strong crew. I honestly think that any of those 5 teams actually have the ability. Now, I'm not saying that I would predict them to win, but I think all 5 of those teams that Europe sent have the ability to pop off and win this event. I think it's more likely for a team like BDS or Moist, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Liquid, Carmine, or Endpoint play well enough to win the major. I think they definitely could do so. They would need to play quite well, but hey, it's a double elim format. All kinds of crazy stuff happens. So, we're not gonna mark out anything just yet. We're not gonna write off anything. And we'll go ahead and, while we're here, we'll go ahead and just glance at all of the teams that are going to be playing in this major in London. For the NA squads, we've got G2, FaZe, V1, Space Station, and Envy. As I was just saying about the European squads, how I feel confident that all 5 could take the dub, even if I wouldn't predict that. I don't feel that confident about the North American squads, but I will say I think that the top 4 have the potential. I think G2 has a real good shot. I think FaZe, if they are playing as well as they did in the 3rd regional, they have a chance to take the major. V1 and Space Station, while they haven't looked as impressive as G2 throughout the spring split, we did see both of those teams turn up at the winter major in Los Angeles. And I think both of those are teams that the players on those teams, they thrive in those environments. I think they do better when there's more pressure and they rise to the occasion. So I think V1 and Space Station could definitely, I think they could definitely do their thing and end up making a deep run in the tournament or even potentially winning it. Envy, I don't want to say that it's absolutely impossible because anything could happen, but I do not have very much confidence in Envy making a deep run. I do not have really any confidence at all that Envy has what it takes to win the event, but I would be more than happy to be proven wrong. Those are the 5 teams from North America. We've already ran through the 5 teams for Europe. The Oceanic region is sending Pioneers and Power. Power actually missed out on the winter major, so they're returning. They did go to fall, and now they're making a return to the major here in spring. So we got Pioneers and Power representing OCE. And that, we're not going to talk too much about it, but the OCE situation for Worlds is still up in the air. Depending on how well Pioneers perform and depending on how well Power performs, we could see Renegades being knocked out of Worlds. So a lot of pressure here on these OCE teams to perform on an individual level. Sam, we got the same squads, Furia and Team Secret from the winter. I got a lot of faith in this Furia squad. And then we've got Gaming Gladiators, their first appearance from the APAC region. This was a team that had a lot of hype throughout the entire season. A lot of people thought that these guys would probably be taking on Tokyo Verde, and those would really be the 2 teams that are going to be contending for major spots. And unfortunately, Gaming Gladiators hasn't been able to make it happen just yet. But here at the end of the season, they finally have made it happen. They win the APAC qualification event, and now they're here to represent the APAC region. And I'm excited to see them perform on the international stage. And then finally, but certainly not least, we do have the MENA representative, Team Falcons. This is previously SRG, Ahmed, and TRK. And we know what these guys bring to the table. Unfortunately, they did not make it to the LA Major. They had some visa issues. But I am excited to see them play in their first international event with the full roster. We saw them in the fall, but unfortunately, they didn't have Khaled. And now they did have Senzo step in. And Senzo is he's no slouch. He's obviously incredible. I wouldn't even really consider him a sub outside of the fact that he's not the starter that they're practicing with. That's really the only disadvantage. I think Senzo is more than capable of playing at the highest level on the international stage. But I am excited to see this Falcons team with their full roster, the team that they practice with, the team that they have dominated with. They have absolutely dominated that region. They won 9 out of 9 regionals. Incredible feat. So I'm excited to see them perform. We'll take a quick glance at the bracket. I don't know if you guys can see that. First round, we got G2 taking on Gladiators. Furia taking on Carmi Corp. That's a spicy matchup. We got V1 taking on Endpoint. Another spicy matchup. Moist versus Envy. BDS versus Secret. Space Station versus Pioneers. FaZe taking on Power. And then this final matchup, in my opinion, is the most spicy round 1 matchup. Team Liquid taking on Team Falcons. I'm excited to watch these. I'm excited to watch these matchups. I'm excited to watch this event. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. But that will conclude Break Check for today. I appreciate you all sticking around. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these Break Check podcasts throughout the season. They are not totally done just yet. We'll probably cover the Major and potentially Worlds. But until then, we will catch you all next time. Peace.